Sounds
Ready?
good.
All right. Welcome, everybody. So here's a reality check, right? With respect to insurance companies, they have an entire department dedicated to paying you as little as possible. That is literally their job. Tonight, it's about making sure you have a strategy too. So I want to start tonight with something a little uncomfortable. Right now, tonight, there's a very good chance your insurance plans are reimbursing you at rates that you probably set years ago. And unless you've pushed back, those rates haven't moved. Meanwhile, your lab fees and supply costs, they've gone up, your staff costs have gone up, and the insurance companies, well, they've kept the difference. So, welcome everyone. I'm so glad you're here tonight. I'm Maria Fuertes, and I'm with CareRevenue. Tonight, we're going deep on two things that directly impact your bottom line: payer negotiations, the fundamentals, the myths, and the strategy, and the internal systems that make those negotiations actually work. And these two things go hand in hand. You can't negotiate from a position of weakness. And by the end of tonight, you'll know exactly how to build that position. So, a couple of quick housekeeping items here. If you have any questions, drop in the Q&A as we go along. It's at the bottom. And just in case we're pressed for time, we're keeping record of your questions. And if you could, please enter your name and practice so that we can get a hold of you. I think the last time we've had people leave some questions, but we didn't get to know where they're from. It was just like, I guess, like their email name, perhaps. So yes, please enter your name and practice so that we can get a hold of you. And we are recording tonight. So if you want to share this with your team later, you'll be able to. All right. So we're going to talk about master payer negotiations and building stronger systems to maximize every dollar. Let me introduce tonight's panelists. Tonight, I have two special people with me who have spent decades in the trenches, in the dental trenches. And I don't mean to age all three of us, team, but it's true. You know, I think Penny and Chad, you've seen, I think, everything and anything and everything with respect to dental revenue cycle management than most of us will ever know. And lucky for you, everyone out there, they're going to share it anyways. So first off, we have Chad. Chad Hendricks has spent over 2 decades in this industry, which means he has seen every payer myth, every missed negotiation, and every practice that left serious money on the table. He's going to fix that for you tonight. And Penny Filipe, she manages revenue cycle operations across 18 dental offices, 18 Penn, right? Did I have that right?
19, one more.
One more, 19, okay.
One more.
When she tells you what works, it's because she's already tested it at scale across every scenario you can imagine. So Chad's going to kick it off for us. Chad, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Maria. Yeah, as you said, very passionate about this subject. I've been working in the dental industry for 23 years now, actually. We met way back then. I worked with American Dental Partners, a large dental group, 300 offices for 16 years there. Moved on to Midwest Dental, 13 years there, and then 3 years with Midwest Dental. So 16 years with dental groups, and with the dental groups running payer negotiations, credentialing, even into the revenue cycle. So got a lot of good experience with those large dental groups. And then 7 years ago, I branched out and I left the dental group business and started doing my own company, Clear Choice Consulting, focused on payer negotiations. And we do credentialing and some other services too, but been focused on that, helping solo practices, helping small groups, medium-sized groups, even some big groups too, but we help with a lot of different sizes. So I was looking at that picture there and I noticed that I have a little bit more hair back then in that picture. I had a lot more hair 23 years ago, but working with insurance companies, I've lost it all. So this is something you want to, get some help with so you don't end up like me.
Right, right. Chad, we
Yeah,
both worked for a DSO before it even became an acronym. That was a while
that's
back.
true.
Yeah. And I started first negotiating, and thank goodness that you came along because it was hard just knocking on the doors of insurance companies and having it slammed in front of you. So I thanked my lucky stars when you came along.
All good. All good.
Yeah. And Penny,
I'm Penny Filipe. I run the office. This is like the Maria was kind of being kind with her words. I think I'm part of a team. I don't run the office by myself, so I'm very proud of my team. Um, I love what I do. I've been working in the dental field for over 30 years. I started as an assistant and came up the ranks, and now I'm a senior operating manager.
and Penny, you also work with Chad.
Yes, I know Chad for over, I think it was about 7 years. When he first started his business, and it's been a partnership. I would say a very profitable partnership is and supportive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you were one of my first clients back 7 years ago, so that's great that we're still working together with Dr.
Yeah.
Salem, and you've been growing out. Now you're up to 19 offices. That's great.
That's wonderful. All right. So Chad, you've got a lot of great stuff to talk about today. And it's like I said again, it's one of the things that I hold close to the heart. And the only reason why is because, I started out in Southern California with a DSO. And if you don't know anything about Southern California, there's like, I don't know how many dentists in a square mile. Like there's your competitors probably like next door to you. And there's some SoCal people out there that knows about this and can speak to it. Um, and with that being said, one of the things that Chad was able to do, and I can attest to this, being in a large group, we took a lot of plans. Part of it is being Delta, of course. And once we signed up for Delta PPO, Delta Premier, we also got signed up automatically with Delta Care USA, which is the HMO part of Delta. And people don't believe me when I say this story, but I've got the guy right here who did it for us. With that being said, it was a time of the year or part of the economy where the bottom fell, right? It was like I think the subprime realty type of stuff that was happening like around 2008, 2009. Long story short, lab fees went up, costs have gone up, but we've had some challenges, and Chad was able to negotiate and have Delta Care USA increase our chair supplementals for an HMO plans. And I was just like floored because I didn't even think that we could do something like this. So when I work with clients and I hear that they haven't, nobody, no, they'll never approve, they won't give me, they won't give me an increase. They see a part of me like, no, it's not true. You can do this because I've lived it and I've done it for years and years. And I'm going to tell you the outcomes and the results. Chad's going to walk you through this. So Chad, you ready to share some secrets and the stuff that you do?
Yeah, and Maria, I remember those meetings out in California. I remember after one of the meetings, it was about 5 p.m. and it took me like 3 hours to get through California traffic to get back to the hotel. So I still remember that very specifically, those negotiations. So very, very
Right.
good, very good.
Good times.
Yeah,
All right, let's talk about busting the myths, Chad, because there
yeah.
are all these myths that people think about it. I hear these questions all the time. What are the things that you probably hear the most of?
Yeah,
That people,
I think I think our first myth is one of those things. I mean, I think I get this, that can a solo office negotiate with insurance companies? This is the number one thing I get a lot of times. Like I've had clients ask me, well, how many offices do I need before they'll listen to me? Or how many, how long do I have to be in business before they'll negotiate with me? And really, we work a lot with first-time dentists who are opening up their own practice in all parts of the country. We have clients all over the country. One of our, other than small groups and medium-sized groups, we have a lot of solo clients, and a lot of them are opening their own practice. They left a group and they're starting their own practice. These offices can negotiate. We can negotiate your first-time office, or you can as well. That's part of the point here, is that you can go out and go to these insurance companies and negotiate out of those standard, really low fee schedules. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about this today. But insurances, just like have members. And those members need a good network. And so, of course, there's some saturation, like you said, in Southern California, a little tougher than maybe, Massachusetts or Minnesota or something like that. But every market, there's negotiable pay. And you've got to go after that, and you've got to have those conversations with the payers. It's not just, I can't negotiate, I just sign up for everything and take those horrible fees, and it is what it is. I think that's one of the challenges. With that dentists think they just sign up, and they sometimes, again, too late, they just sign up their office and get credentialed, and then they never negotiated fees, and then they come back and hear that, oh, I have to wait a year now before I can negotiate fees. But the key is before you sign the paperwork to negotiate with the plans. And that's just something that people miss that step in the process of opening a new practice. Tied to what, whether they're leaving a practice, starting up their own practice, opening a de novo, acquiring a practice, like the bullet points say there too, the data is very important. You need to understand what are you charging in the market, doing market analysis. You need to understand what codes you're going to utilize so you can negotiate on those codes. But it's really important to go after those insurances that you want to join. And I say go after all of them and see which ones will negotiate and get the best deals possible, and then sign up for those plans. And that's just a good strategy to kind of get going with a new office.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, Chad, is that people tend to, just sign the forms and not think that they can negotiate before they even sign that. I think that there's that definite, huge gap, and it hurts my heart when I see that happening, actually. So I'm so glad that you had stated that it does happen. I see it happen all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a misstep in the timing is to get credentialed, get contracted, and then try to go back later. Like I said, some of the plans are very picky, and they will be like, oh, well, you already signed up. Now you can't negotiate for 1 year. And so it's important to do it at the same time. And it's good to have lead time. We get clients all the time saying, hey, we're opening in 3 months, 4 months. And, that's a good amount of time to set yourself up to succeed and get, negotiate with the plans, then credential and contract with them. That's the right order. I think people sometimes try to do it backwards, and it's really a misstep.
Right. So I'm going to go to myth number 2, which are network plans, umbrellas. And I hear more and more about it through CareRevenue. Umbrellas are always better than direct contracts with plans. That's what I hear.
Yeah, no, and again, that's not the case. That's not always the case. I think the first thing I like to take a step back and understand is there's really 3 ways you can contract with an insurance company. You have a direct contract, you just sign up with, and during the session, I'll use different insurance names, but they're all interchangeable. You sign up with Aetna and you're directly contracted with Aetna. That's one way to do it. You can go into network plans, umbrella plans are called, and those are like Connection Dental, Carrington, Dentamax, Zealous has a network. There's a couple smaller ones out there as well. Those are the big 4. And then those plans you sign up for, and then you can see lots of plans under their umbrella, and you're paid on their fees. And then there's also something that's been getting really more complex over the years called what I call like partnership arrangements. So you sign up with that, and then my example, and all of a sudden I'm getting in network with United Healthcare or with Guardian, other partners that have partnered with insurance companies. So there's that partnership leasing arrangement, there's network plans, and there's direct contract. So it's important to understand what you're doing and how you're doing that. Now, the key here, the myth here, is that people say, just sign up with the network plans, it's way better. And the challenge is, there's some challenges with that. And I think it's good to go, I say eyes wide open, understand those challenges and make sure those pitfalls aren't going to be a problem. And I see it all the time with offices where they were given advice to drop all their direct contracts and sign up with a network, a Carrington or Connection, and then they're going to see great things. And 12, 18 months later, they're still in limbo. They're still with challenges with this transition from termination to going through the network. So that's one of the biggest issues, is that you don't always just get linked up to the network with all of the subplans. So that's one of them. And I'll go better in order here. But when you're going through a network, some insurances, there's 3 or 4 of them that are really big about moving you to a different tier. So they put you can't see all of the same members when you go through a network. A direct contract, I can see all the PPO members. A network, I can see some of their members because they move you to a different bucket because you're not directly contracted. They're trying to dissuade you from going to the network because the network typically does have higher fees. So that's the benefit for the provider. But there's those challenges of now not all of my Aetna patients or my MetLife patients can go through the network, and that's challenging. There's, like I said, delays in contracting. I mentioned this a second ago. I sign up with Carrington or Connection. Well, when are all these plans under Carrington Connection gonna roll in? it could be 30, 60, 96 months. It could be a long time later. So you think, oh, I can see all my plans under the network. It's not as easy as it sounds. And it takes
Yeah.
time to do that.
Yeah, Chad, is it true? Because I'm working with someone right now where
Yeah.
we're told that, they got signed up for an umbrella plan and they weren't going to get, a form of letter, if you will, or some sort of communication that they've been approved. I mean, what usually happens when you do sign up for an umbrella plan? Because after this, I want to talk about when we last worked, I was signed up with two types of umbrella plans, and you had me unsign with the umbrella plan. So maybe if you can walk us through that, that'd be great. I mean, I have some clients that have signed up, but still waiting, and then
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
told that they have to call the insurance companies themselves on that long list, if you will.
Well, you're right. And again, I'm not picking on any of the network plans. They all have a list of about 50 to 100 plans that go under their network. So those 50 or 100 plans are going to enroll you at their own timeline. And so that isn't, there's no letter that's sent or anything. So I sign up with again, Carrington Connection, Dynamax, Zealous. They will send you a confirmation. You're in network with us. And then they send information out like monthly to the sub plans underneath them. And then those plans will pick it up and load it in their system again when they wish, when they get around to it. Some are really good about it, some are not as good about it. But the challenge is they don't send notices. When you're trying to get through Humana, Cigna, Aetna, MetLife through these plans, those plans are not going to send you a notice. So you have to call, you have to, see how an EOB pays. Did it pay through Connection or Carrington or Dentabank? And wait and wait and wait. And you don't really have a good way to get it other than making phone calls, going on web portals, trying to figure it all out, where all these 50 plans are going to get in network. So there's that delay. And that's a great question that ties right to that bullet point there.
Right.
And just tied to that too, there's these network, these leasing arrangements and network plans. There's so many partnerships out there. Again, without naming names, there's some insurances that have 8 partners. So if I'm not contracted with that insurance, one of their 8 partners may pick me up as in network if I don't opt out of them. So they change this order of operations, if you will, like which plan wins out. If I'm with these 3 plans and not that plan, well, which of the 3 will win the contracting battle behind the scenes? They don't tell you that, and it can change all the time. I just had a client recently who was like, I was getting paid through Zealous, and all of a sudden I'm now getting paid through DHA Sun Life. And what happened? Well, they just changed the way they order their stack. So they do it behind the scenes. They don't have to know, you don't have a contract with those plans. And so they can do it as they wish. So it can be very challenging to manage those network plans. So you have to keep your eyes open. And then I even have clients where, like I mentioned earlier, they were given a suggestion a recommendation to drop all their direct plans and go through Carrington or Connection. Well, some insurances, they don't like that, even though they have a partnership with them. They don't like that. So when you terminate with them, they will put you in a penalty box for 1 year, and they will not pick you up intentionally. It's a rule they've created. They will not pick you up intentionally for 1 year because you termed to try to get better fees with a network. So some plans play games like that, and it's good to know which ones do that. And so you can be careful about when you're terminating, expecting to get picked up with this plan through Connection or Carrington in 30 days, and you're going to have to wait 12 months
Right.
or longer.
We do have a question
Yeah.
from Ali. He says here, approximately what percentage higher pay do network plans pay out as compared to direct credentialing?
Yeah, so I've seen it. I mean, it's a relative question. Every market's different. Every depending on your negotiation skills and such, you may have a really great deal with those network plans versus you maybe have a great sweet deal with a direct contract too. So, but generally speaking, I find that the network plans can be anywhere from 10 to 15%, just averages higher than the direct contracts. And again, that's not always the case, and every market's different. I've had offices that were kind of tired of the network game, and they said, Chad, help me negotiate with the contracts. We were able to negotiate some contracts very close to the network plan. So it made sense to go back in network with the plans because that's what made sense in that market. So it's just important to know your market a little bit and where you have leverage and use some of these tools we're going to talk about later to help handle those negotiations and do some comparisons so you know. But I mean, generally speaking, without doing a lot of legwork, they're about 10 to 15% higher and more or less in certain markets than that.
hmm And just high level, Chad, because I know
Yeah,
we're pressed for time.
yeah.
What was the reason why you had me terminate or take my group out of an umbrella plan? I kept one on, but you had me take one out. What would be the
Well,
scenario?
yeah. So I see this as well. We take on a new office to help them, and they give me their current participation list, and they're in network with all four of those network plans. And this was the example, like you were in network with two of the network plans. So they're kind of stepping on each other's feet. And so some of the plans are going through this one, and some of the plans are going through this one. Well, I was suggesting what I suggest to many, find out which one's the best and get
Mhm.
out of the other so they can't get in each other's way. So you're not in, I see it all the time. They're with all four of those plans, and then they don't know which one's going to win out, which one's going to pay, and they can't give estimates to patients. So eliminate the lowest paying ones, and they will eventually funnel up through the best one. It takes some time. Like I said, there's some delays, but at long-term scenario is going to be much better.
Right. All right. Thank you for
Yeah.
that. You ready to talk about Dr. Smith's wake up call?
Yeah. I think let's do that. Let's go to that next slide here where we talk a little bit about this, imaginary dentist, Dr. Smith, and how, we just look at the math of this and the math of negotiating. And this is where I go back and say, it's something you need to be doing. As groups grow, as dental groups grow, they hire a person to do this regularly because it's something they should be doing on a regular basis. But for most small groups or solo offices, they don't have a resource that's going to do this regularly. But it's important whether you do, have someone on your team do it, hire a vendor to do it, or do it yourself. It's important to be doing this, making time for this effort because it's going to mean real dollars. And that's what this little made up example is trying to show here. And again, I'll just do a high level here. So we're looking at a 3-doctor practice, roughly 2.4 million in annual production. We're saying that 90% is insurance, 10% is uninsured cash patients. So it's important to do two pieces to this, the payer relations, as I call it. One is adjusting your UCR. So looking at the upper right there, you've got the 10% of the business, so that'd be $240,000 a year in our example, is cash or uninsured patients. So when you raise your UCR, you're getting an automatic lift from that block of business. So if you raise your rates, just say 5% a year, that translates to $12,000 in revenue. So it's very important to raise your UCR, do a market analysis, don't just blindly raise them. It's important to look at real data. There's some good sources out there to get data from the NDAS, the Fair Health, and others. But it's good to do an analysis. So you're raising your UCR annually. And that's the norm out there in the industry is to raise your rates, your UCR every year. Secondarily is looking at your insurance revenue. So in this made up example, it's 90% is PPO. We're also taking a little haircut on that and saying, let's just assume 80% of that 90% is negotiable. Maybe they've got some government plans, maybe they've got like a tough Delta Dental in their market or whatever. So only 80% of the 2.16 million is negotiable. So that's the 1.728 million. And if you just do some math on negotiating all of those plans, and this is typically done every 2 years, most insurances negotiate on a 2-year cycle. There's a couple that do 1 year, there's a couple that do 3 years, but most of them are 2 years. Every 2 years, if you got a 5% increase and a 10% increase, you can see 86,000 to 172,000. So when you do the math on the UCR and the negotiations with payers, we're looking at $1 to almost $200,000 every year or two in increased revenue by just negotiating with the payers.
That's
And not
definitely,
does that make sense?
yeah, no, go ahead. No, please continue with your thought.
No, I was just going to say that I mean, that's the bottom line. That's the real math of it all and why it's so important to negotiate. Now, certainly some payer may give you 3%, another may give you 7%, so that these are just averages. And typically, again, they vary from year to year. And as we saw in the last few years, inflation went way up. You had a really good argument to make with insurance companies to negotiate higher rates because we all know costs went up. Costs went to the bottom line. We need to negotiate. It doesn't guarantee anything, but it's just important to know some of the data behind what you can ask for and how much you can ask for, and to make sure you're negotiating on a 2-year cycle. That's my best suggestion.
Okay. All right. Why don't we go to the next slide, which is the fee schedule analysis tool. I think what we want to say is what the tool shows. So walk us through this.
Yeah, I mean, just again, I won't, for the sake of time, I won't dive too deep, but I mean, the main point here is that we're looking at, so it's important, I think it's important to measure all of your insurances, and we use a weighted average tool when we do analysis to kind of look at how do they rank compared to each other? So Cigna's paying me 60% of UCR. We use UCR as your baseline. How much are you taking a discount? MetLife's paying you 70%, Delta's paying you 80%, and so on. You can stack them and rank them, and that's some of that data that we talked about earlier, and I think Penny will talk about getting data later. Where do you stand? So in our scenario here, we're saying, let's just say you average 78% of UCR. That's your UCR average on your insurance reimbursement. And if you can move, and then you draw a line in the sand, we're going to move to 85%. That's our goal. If we don't get 85%, maybe we're going to leave the network. Maybe we're going to change our contracting, whatever it may be. If that's our goal, then it's roughly a 10% increase going from 78 to 85. And you do some math on patients and collections and such. That it's another way of looking at the data we just looked at. That can materially mean about $28,000 a month in your revenue, and about $300,000 a year. It's just another way to slice this up with a 400 patient per month practice, if you will. So that's what this is trying to show. Just another way to slice it up. That if you can use your metrics to go from A to B, whatever that may be, it's gonna be very material at the bottom line.
So Chad, we have some people with the school of thought that, what UCR is like kind of made up, or it doesn't really matter type of thing. It's a fake number. Do you ever come across those types of statements?
Yeah. I mean, I think people definitely wonder about that. Like, what should I be charging? And I think it's important to understand your mix when you're raising rates. And I see a question about averaging 5% a year. That's in normal times. I think 3 to 5% is a normal inflationary rate for dental services. That's very common. Again, in the past, the last couple of years, I saw rates going up 10, 12%. It's important to do an analysis by code, because you don't just, I wouldn't blindly move everything up 5% or 10%. Look at those rates in the market, get some market data to compare to, because you want to make sure you're raising the right codes. Because there's two things. You want to show those insurance companies you're raising your rates. Now, insurance companies, I need you to raise your rates on your side. That's one thing. The other thing is that you also have to you don't want to scare away your cash patients. I've suggested to some offices that are 50% cash patients, uninsured, don't raise your rates too high. It may scare off some people, right? So people who are price shopping are going, wow, my crown is how much? And they have no insurance. You don't want to raise rates by too much. So I think it's always good to balance that out, including looking at codes that are not covered codes. Adult fluoride is a great example. If your adult fluoride's too high, people are going to decline, right? So make sure that that's adjusted for what's covered with insurances as well. So there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle. We could talk all night about it, but I think it's just a good way to slice this up.
Right. And Patricia, hi Patricia. She says here, I have noticed that directly in CareStack, you can set your UCR fees to increase yearly. Yes, one of the best part of me going into CareStack. I love it when it's automated like that. And then for Ali, the question is, where do you recommend sourcing UCR from? You mentioned NDAS. Any other recommendations?
Yeah, NDAS, I think, is the cheapest option to give you some metrics. From a data perspective, it's a less refined, a less detailed data in my experience. I use both. The other one I use is Fair Health, which is an independent company that gets data from insurance companies and providers around the country. They have a much more robust data, but it's obviously more expensive. So NDAS is as good a source as any to get you some kind of an idea of what to charge.
All right. Do you want to go and let's just talk about the basic negotiation steps? And
if
people want to take a picture of this, please feel free to do so. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this is the meat of everything here, really getting at it. It's what we do for offices, and I think it's, again, what I suggest people do if they're negotiating on their own. The first thing, again, get those UCR set the UCR, because a lot of insurances, they want to know, what are you charging? What is our discount level? If you're charging $900 for a crown and they're paying you $850, they're like, we can't give you any more. You're already at UCR. So you need to show them there's a differential. And so updating that and starting the negotiation with giving them their UCR is a common ask by the payer. So make sure you have your UCRs set and don't try to change them in the middle of the process. And then I think it's important, and we do this with our clients too, it's verify your current insurance rates. I see it so many times where the offices we work with, they're like, I don't even know what my rates are. We don't have them loaded in the system. We don't have the paper copies of them or anything. So it's good to know how you're getting paid now, and then how you're contracted. I touched on this earlier with a direct contract, a network umbrella, or a leasing arrangement. You need to know how you're contracted, because you can't just have a list of plans. Oh, one Humana is getting paid through Connection and Guardian's getting paid through Guardian, and you need to know how you're lining up, so you know who to talk to when you're negotiating. But then taking that data and analyzing those fees. I touched on this a second ago. Analyzing those fees compared to your UCR. So how does Humana, MetLife, Cigna, Aetna rank one side by side for all the codes, your key codes? At least look at your top 30, top 40 codes, if not all of them, and calculate your discount level so you can compare them side by side. It's so important to having that data before you go in and negotiate. And then again, I focus on, I look at all codes in my analysis tool, but it's key to look at your top codes. And I think, the most used codes, and it's good to make sure when you're negotiating, and I'll throw this little tip in there, make sure when you're negotiating, you always check all the codes. So maybe you've got a good offer from someone, you like it, but you say, hey, I want to change these 10 codes. They come back and go, oh, great, we met you. We added 5% on those 10 codes. It's important to go back and check the other ones. They didn't take those other ones down to offset what they raised, because that's a little trick that some insurances do. They don't mention it, but you need to be always looking at the full schedule, because they could play games like that where they move other codes backwards that you didn't ask for, and they offset their increases there, and you end up not getting the increase you thought you got. So make sure you're looking at all codes, even if you're looking and focusing on the top codes. And then just start negotiating. That's the fifth step here, is just start negotiating with the plans, reaching out to them. We've built a library. I've got a database of people I've worked with for years, and that's really helpful. Otherwise, maybe you're calling the 1-800 Cigna. Maybe you find out using Google or ChatGPT or something, finding a good rep to work with. But it's important to start talking to somebody. Ideally, getting out of an inbox. So because the insurances now have a lot of these blind inboxes that just insurance@.com. And you don't know who's behind it, and if they're ever going to get back to you. So another tactic you have to be aware of is just stall tactics. It benefits them to not pay you more. So you have to be diligent. And this is where having someone who's doing this on your staff or a vendor doing this for you to stay on these payers and stay following up. It can take months, but if you give up, they're happy to give up. They won't give you an increase if you don't negotiate it. So you've got to stay diligent with them. That's so important, having a tracking tool and making notes and who you talk to and when you talk to them.
Right.
Last couple things here, just to optimize your plans. And what that means is just looking at your participation, looking at what 10, I'm in these 10 plans. One plan won't negotiate. I can maybe drop that plan and pick up a new plan and replace those patients and get paid, X amount higher. So it's important to look at that, or maybe even going in network with a network, or maybe going through a leasing arrangement, like I said before. There are some that work well, and you just need to look at optimizing those plans so you can raise your rates that way along with negotiating, and that can be a big plus. And then just again, repeat that cycle every 2 years. Go after this every year with the UCR, every 2 years with negotiating, and just keep doing it so you can keep getting those rate increases.
Right. So I get clients that tell me, well, Delta told me that I can't negotiate at all. Is that a myth?
Well, yeah, I mean, not generally that's a pretty true statement. I mean, Delta Dental is the big gorilla, the big elephant, whatever you want to call them, and they can dictate what happens out there. Some Deltas are good to work with. Some of them, especially with some specialists, I've been able to negotiate some rates. In some states, because they're all pretty unique, each state, you can't do really anything. Like you said, California, not going to do a whole lot in Delta, California. They have 1 million dentists and they don't negotiate. Other states, I've seen good luck with that, and so it varies a little bit by state. And again, if anyone has a question like, hey, does my Delta negotiate? Feel free to reach out to me and I can help you. But they're the tough one. They're the toughest one to work with, I would say.
Right. So why don't we go into key takeaways, and maybe you can share your contact information and, if any of the, if anybody wants to reach out to you, for sure. So I know that there's a couple of other questions, which I think I'll hold till the end, but we did have somebody say here, I've been told, oopsies, hold on for a second. I just lost you here.
Oh, somewhere in the chat, I think.
Yeah, I've been told by consultants over and over that Delta, UCCI, and CareFirst are very rigid. How much truth is there to this statement?
Again, Delta is very rigid and very rigid. CareFirst out east they're also tough to work with. They do have some different tiers and things. Concordia also is tough, but I've worked out some really good deals with Concordia. They have different networks, and they have an elite network you can move to. They even have done custom deals for providers and not just groups. We've done some good things with some groups, but even solo offices, depending on the market and the saturation in the market and the need in the market. So those statements are not wrong, but I always say, even for, I think someone mentioned Medicaid, generally speaking, state Medicaid is not negotiable, but the plans who administer them sometimes are negotiable. The DentaQuest of the world, you can sometimes negotiate with that.
All right. That's great. All right, there's your key takeaways. Anybody that wants to take a picture of this as well, please feel free to do so. Maybe you can share your contact number. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, just again, you can negotiate. It's not a myth. You can really negotiate. And go after those insurance companies. Every 2 years negotiate cycle. That's a good cycle. There's a big upside that we talked about. You can look at the numbers. Your office may vary, of course. But do the UCR every year, negotiations every 2 years. That's a good cycle to work with. Again, know your numbers, know what codes you're using, know what they're paying you. Don't go in blind, and data is so important. And I think that's a good segue to Penny's going to talk a little bit about getting data out of the system to help you negotiate.
That's right. All right. Do you want to go ahead and share your contact number?
Yeah. I'll throw it in the chat, and you can text me or call me. I'll throw my email in there too if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer anybody's questions.
Awesome. All right. So let's go ahead and segue into Penny. I mean, she's worked with you for so many years, as did I, and we know that having systems in place is really important. It's critical. You're going to show data to the insurance company. Make sure that your data is correct. You're doing things the smart way, right? So, Penny, welcome. Before we dive in, give us a quick picture of your world. You've got 18 offices. I think you said 19, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that you've put these things together, the internal systems, because of what you've experienced, and then also what you found by working with Chad. And also you're going to show us some tips in reporting and how to do things in CareStack as well. I love that fee analysis that little fee analysis code that you did there the other night. So take it away, Pen.
I think I'm going to give a little explanation. So at first we had a server-based PMS. It was, as we all know, server PMSs don't work when you have 18 offices and 19 offices. It's hard to communicate, get an SOP, get a workflow working. Because most of the time you can't remote into the system, or it takes a long time to remote into the system. So I think one of the things is very important is be able to get a workflow in an SOP that works for all locations, being one location or 10. You need to have a structure that your staff can work with you and say, you want to express your idea to your staff and say, we need to work one way. Not one person does one way, another staff member does another way. We want to be able to have a fluent system in the office, an approachable system, because you want our staff to realize this is very approachable, very learnable. We just need to make a structure. And I was very lucky. My staff was very open with me, from my actual managers to my staff. I heard a lot. Oh, Penny has an idea. But they were open to it, and I'm very thankful to my staff doing that.
The 18.
But I think if you go back to the basics, and this is what Chad was mentioning, go back to the basics coding, back to the basics demographics. Even the verification of insurance. These are 3 key points that all staff members in the front desk should be able to do very efficiently. This is where most of the drop off the ball. This is where it is demographics, wrong date of birth, wrong spelling, okay, wrong subscriber number. We see it all the time.
Yeah, delays the claims.
Delays totally the claims. And then you have the insurance verification. I know that it's tedious. I know it's a tedious process, but that eliminates a lot of denials from insurance. Make sure you verify that insurance. Make sure it's correct. Nowadays, you have a constantly flow of different insurance plans. They had one plan this year. Next year, they have another plan, the patient. You need to be able to know that. You need to be able. I put a policy in my office get insurance cards, get licenses. For a simple reason. It's not a law, but you want to eliminate insurance fraud. That happens all the time. You want to make sure that patient is the correct patient. Make sure the spelling is correct. And you see it all the time. Their card license have one name, the insurance has another name. We want to make sure that's correct.
And I think that's what the statement that you use for patients that come in, something about insurance fraud, or, you know, we're collecting it. What was it that you say?
I literally tell the staff, we want to eliminate any possibility of insurance fraud. Please give us a card and your driver's license. And patients are welcome to give us that because they know the reason. Sometimes the basic, you know, get the patients knowledgeable about what's going on in the market is very good. And I never have a pushback because they realize we're doing this for their benefit too.
Right, right. Let's talk about these coding errors that you've mentioned, you know, 50 to 100K lost annually in uncollected revenue. You know, walk us through that.
So basically, in office, we scrub claims due to errors that happen all the time. So sometimes there's a very simple sequence of coding creates a barrier from a bridge coding to a crown coding. We want to make sure that all the codes are correct and posted correctly because you don't want to have the more errors you have in coding, the more delay of payments and possible long-term denials. We want to prevent that. So know your codes and how to post them correctly is very important.
So our team here that's helping us out, can we go to the 3-step? Because I know we've got 15 minutes left and I want to make sure that we capture, share some of these things that Penny's going to show. And she's also going to go into CareStack as well. All right, Penn, go for it.
All right. This is a fee analysis code. So a fee analysis code is basically the way I look at it. A fee analysis code is you go to your coding sequence and you want to make sure that your coding is correct. Okay. By doing that, because I work with Chad so many years, I kind of have an idea of what the payer should be paying. Okay. So when I'm going below a certain margin, I usually look at 70%. If I see a code that's paid at below 70%, it pops up a question, why is it so low? And that's why when that actual communication with Chad happens, I'll call Chad and say, why are we getting paid so low on this, this type of insurance or this type of plan? And he does his research. This happened not too long ago with us that we had, I'm going to mention a payer, Cigna, that was paying a very low rate. It was like in the 50 range. And I thought that was very strange. And so I called a Chad and I said, Chad, am I missing something here? And he's like, oh, no, you should be paying much higher. So that's when he started negotiation. So we went to I think it was a 52% margin to a 70-something margin. So we went way above.
And you're you're looking at 70, 75% because of the areas that you're in.
Correct.
Is that correct? Is there a way that you can show us in CareStack? I know that we talked about this, and I think it'd be great to just show the audience how easy it is to do, right?
I'll gladly will.
Yep.
Let me just share my screen real quickly with you. Okay. Give me 1 second, please.
So, and Chad, this is what she does on a regular basis, and it's when she shares the information with you.
Right.
So basically what I do, I think most of us know, but we have a fee table in CareStack. If you don't know how to get into that fee table, just go hover your practice settings. You go to your hamburger and you go to your practice settings, and practice settings, you go to fee tables. So what I usually do, I do by code. I like to know where is my code range. So usually I have all my insurance. It's very important to have a fee schedule attached to your claims because that makes the adjustment more appropriate than doing these high adjustments because you're doing the adjustments based on your UCR and not actual fee allowable. So my recommendation is always get all your data when it comes to fee tables and put it into CareStack. So you're helping yourself with how actually you're getting paid, not the UCR. Makes it more accessible and more reasonable, I would say. However, what I do, I usually put a code in there. And as you see, I have all my fee tables here. If I see something unusual in these numbers, I usually would go do a little bit more investigation and find out why.
You're talking about the fee, correct?
Correct. As you see, there's different fees. This is all based on one code. And I'm going to use a simple code for all of this. I'm going to use a Profi code because that's very common. So if I see an unusual when it comes to a payer, as you see the range, like I said, is between the 75 and the 90%. That's when I get Chad involved. For a negotiation or see maybe we're in the wrong plan. Like he said, maybe it's the wrong plan that we got assigned to. Because right now, yes, Chad is amazing doing every 2 years, but most practices don't do every two years because they're not in that flow of doing every 2 years. So it's important for you to get in the flow. Don't just accept what the payers are saying, saying to you, oh, you can negotiate, and keep in mind, you need to be actively getting new fees, actively, fighting for your company, because as we know, payers do not pay as fair as they could be. Let's put it that way. So this is a way of catching it.
Right, that's
To
great.
me, I do go based on coding. Like Chad said, I think that's to me, is more profitable doing by code. So you know where you're losing the actual revenue.
And this happens like when you're going in and posting payments, or you're looking at the payments and you see something like, way lower than others. Okay, great. Well, thank you for that. I'd like for us to get to the scorecards that you've also set up too, that I, would love for you to share with our audience out there. So our team members, if you can get us to, I think, slide 20. Are we having problems with the slide, team? Okay, I'm not sure what happened. 1 sec. Okay, great. Thank you. So what's the reason why you created the scorecards that you're about to share with our audience?
My thought is I'm running 19 offices and I need to have an explanation of the cost of everything. So when I do these reports, I do based on the provider or hygienist. I go from a clean claim rate, which is very important to me.
Now, a solo office can do this too, private office.
Yes, any office.
Yeah.
I think it's very important. Doesn't matter how small you are or how big you are. You need to have a pulse of how the office is going. So when I create these scorecards, I'm basing on production, collection, even simple things as no-show rate or rescheduling rate. I look at the big picture. I'm looking at the big picture of the company. If I see an outliner on those reports, I'm going to be questioning that outliner and say, how can we improve this? What am I missing? It could be a simple thing. It could be 1 month their production went low. I need to find out why. I need to find out, was it because they were out for a week? Or was it because the patient ratio dropped all of a sudden? So everything counts.
Right. So as they're trying to pull up the slides, there's a couple of questions here. First of all, Chad did put his contact information in the webinar chat. From what I see, there it is. Thanks, Chad Hendricks. And also, I'm not sure if everybody sees it. Here's a question from Hala. If an insurance pays $400 for a 2740, which is very low, does that red flag them as possibly having other very low fees? I think that's for Chad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, generally fees are pretty consistent. Like if they're a bad schedule, it's a bad schedule throughout. They're not just paying really well on code A, B, and C. But yeah, 400 on a crown is super low, no matter what state you're in or what market you're in. So that definitely needs to be looked at. That almost seems like a DHMO or Medicaid rate to me. If that's a PPO rate, that's a problem. Yeah, for sure.
Right. Thanks for that, Chad. All right, then let's go talk about your scorecards here.
So basically, my scorecards, I make it very simple, but I make it enough that I can kind of grab it and see the pulse of the office. So I have a clean claim ratio, I have a cancellation ratio, I have a no-show ratio, a missing transaction, net applied payments from insurance and patient, and the net production. All
And this-
these
this-
are very important key factors to run a business.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter if you're one office or two or three. It's very important that you know the health of your office.
Got it. And then hygiene scorecard?
In the hygiene scorecard, oh, I'm sorry, a hygiene scorecard is basically, it's kind of similar to the report, but I'm focusing on the new patient ratio, the cancellation ratio, the net patient production ratio, the new patient, how many new patients we have, the broken appointments ratio, and I'm looking at the gross production for the data service monthly. And I have the no-show ratio in there. And I even do a gross production per appointment. I
Okay.
want to make sure we use all the different aspects of the reporting to make sure I'm doing this correctly.
So
And
this
I'm
tells you a
looking at-
story then,
Right.
right?
It tells me a story from, when I have two hygienists and one is making a certain amount per appointment and I have one much lower amount. I'm questioning that. Why do I have that? That again, the outliner. Why do I have that? And that's when I go back in the drawing board and go through more reports to kind of dictate why is that happening.
And then you're also checking to see like the codes that you're using possibly
Right.
for negotiation reasons, correct?
Right.
Right. Okay, got it. All right. And so kind of pressed for time, I'd like to go into the scrubbing claims part.
This is my favorite part of all this. No, just kidding. But it is. I love this part. This is where, the health of the practice is very important. Scrubbing claims before they're sent out is the most important thing we can do for a business because you're catching every single mistake that was walked out in coding wise. You're going to reduce your rejected claims. You're going to optimize your cost to get the money into the office. When you're not doing this, you're going to have rejected claims. You're going to be even claims that never get paid because you don't know what happened to that claim. It's very important to make sure when you're scrubbing claims, it's done appropriately and make sure that your staff knows what they're trying to see. Even sending double the coding. Sometimes the doctor puts the same code twice. You need to scrub that before it comes up.
Yeah. And then that's the stuff that the insurance companies get. They keep record of everything, correct?
Right.
Right.
And sometimes you have a denial because they send it by mail, or sometimes you don't. So even the research after that to see what happened to that claim, it's a lot of manpower to do that.
Okay. And with respect to the scorecard, our attendees can reach out to their account manager or their client success manager to help them put that scorecard through. I know that you've been on CareStack for quite some time, so you probably did it yourself.
Yes, I did, but it's very important
Right.
for any business owner or operating manager to
Right.
know the pulse of your office, to know where to do the scorecards. It's generated automatically every month. You don't need to create all this. You can create, save, and just a click of a button, you
Right.
have your answers. So it's very important.
I think this is a good thing to also have handy. One of the things, the exercises I used to do is like measuring the effectivity or that margin, if you will. Before terminating a plan, one of the exercises we would do like every 6 months, perhaps, is getting a report of such nature. And I check to see, I'm looking at the performance of the insurance company, right? So if the margin is actually very low, let's say 55% or 60%, right? Before I even terminate with the plan, I check to see how many patients do I see off of that plan. It's probably an employer. And if there is a lot and I'm the only dentist in the area, or they come to me because they love me, let's say, I can go back to the insurance company and say, hey, I see Chad's going, yes.
Yeah.
I see X amount of your patients from this employer. All right. I'm getting X amount. This is like 65% or 55% of my margins. There's just no way that I can continue to have this.
Yeah,
And
Maria,
that's,
Maria, I
go
was
ahead.
going to just say, Maria, I think it's important too. My strategy has always been a partner, try to partner with the insurances and make a good faith effort to negotiate. But understand if you're going to terminate, don't just threaten to terminate. Be real, be ready for that. Don't just play the chicken with them. If you're going to send a termination letter, be prepared that if it doesn't, it's not a negotiation ploy. Be prepared to terminate if they don't follow through. Sometimes it does work. Sometimes it lights a fire. The insurance will start talking when you send them a letter like that, but
Mhm.
I just like to try to first negotiate in good faith.
Right, especially if I can provide the data, because you can see
Yeah,
it, data is king, right? It doesn't lie.
absolutely.
Right. Just make sure that the data is clean and correct. So all the stuff that Penny's talking about with respect to internal systems, keeping that, creating your scorecard, checking your fee coding, if you will, scrubbing claims, let's take a look at your takeaways because we're down to the wire. So systems as a negotiation strategy. So this is the stuff that you've created so that you can help Chad, give him the data
Mhm.
and get you more money.
Exactly. I think the main thing is create internal systems that work for you, but make sense. Sometimes you have pushback when you're trying to create a new system, and it's hard sometimes for practices to create a new system. But
Mhm.
be patient, go through it, and create that system. At the other side, you see so much improvement.
Yeah.
And when you have a clean reporting, everything you do is much easier from credentialing point of view to a simple negotiation with payers, like Chad was mentioning, is much easier if you have actual data. If Chad calls me and says, how many patients do you have Delta Mass? I have a number for Chad.
Right.
That's
Very
accurate,
healthy.
or any other company. You
Right.
want to make sure you have that data because when you go into that table and you want to negotiate, you make sure that your office is giving all the information on that table and say, I want to negotiate. Are you ready? And then we'll go
Right.
from there.
Right. So, and for those attendees that are CareRevenue clients, we'd be happy to go ahead and run these special reports for you too, with respect to your the insurance performance, the performance of the insurances that you're in network with, and find out what your effectivity is there from there, right? So that if you are going to go ahead and negotiate, you need to make sure that you have the data in front of you and you can do this in a more smart manner, right? Working smarter than harder, if you will. All right, we're like 1 minute over. This is better than the last time because I think I went half an hour over, but we're we unfortunately we don't have time for Q&A. However, though, please reach out to me for those of you all that know how to get a hold of me. mfuertes@carestack.com. If you want me to give you Penny's information, I'd be happy to do that. Chad, you put your information to the chat, so please, everyone, just go into the chat and take that information. We're going to wrap it up from here, but I want to genuinely thank Chad and Penny for tonight. This is the kind of content that translate directly into dollars for your practice, and I hope you felt that. The recording will be available. Share it with your team, anyone who needs to see this. And if you want to dig deeper, whether it's a fee schedule analysis, talking through your payer contracts, reach out to Chad. If you want to know where your revenue gaps are, the CareRevenue team is here for it. We're here for it. Reach out to us. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night. And remember, every practice leaves money on the table without a negotiation strategy. Tonight, you took a big step forward to changing that. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good
Thank you so
night.
much.
Thank
Patricia,
Thanks,
you so
Maria.
I can
much.
give that to you, Patricia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry. It's in the chat too. So we're not going to close it down. We just want to say good night. You're welcome, Patricia. It's in the chat. You kind of have to scroll up, but it's in there. There you go. Chad had it out
Just
there
copied
for
it.
you.
There's my email.
Yep.
There you go. Good. Hey, thanks, Maria, for having me. It's always good to partner with CareStack, CareRevenue, and happy to help.
Right. No, thank you, Chad. I mean, you've always been there to help out. And then Elsie raised a hand. View. Let's go ahead and just take one. Elsie raised hand. Okay. Is it a high five? LC okay.
Oh, having
Have
issues.
you seen
Okay.
the contact info? Can you put the contact info again? Elsie, if you can tell us where you're from so that we know how to get a hold of you. So your email address, perhaps, your practice name.
Copy it again here too.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
Oh, someone else. Okay, there you go.
Yep, yep.
Oh, he sees it now. Okay, great.
Yeah, thank you. I see it now. Right on. This was, I think it was a
Great.
great, webinar tonight. I think there's a lot of things that we've actually, hopefully we've kind of taken the curtains behind the scenes, if you will. Feel free to reach out to me. Be happy to help. Hey, Kofi, how are you doing? Anyways, everyone, have a great evening. For all of you, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I've got Chad's contact information as well as Penny's, okay? And I appreciate you all, our CareStack and CareRevenue community out there. Thank you so much. Very grateful. Have a good night, everybody.
Good
Take
night,
care.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.